Welcome back to the Electrical Building Design Show. I was recently at the NECA convention in 2024. I want to give you my thoughts as an exhibitor about what I learned and took away from the convention. We sell electrical design software for Revit, so it was a bit of a stretch for us to attend this conference. It's obviously for contractors, and there's lots of cool contractor stuff happening. We were on the show floor, so we got to walk around and see some of the other exhibits that were out there, and all the cool stuff that's happening in the industry is all being displayed. It was really a lot of fun stuff to take a look at. What I discovered while I was in my booth is that the design build market is shaped a little bit differently and is smaller than I realized. We have a fair number of design build people who use our software, so I thought that we could find more of those design build people at NECA. Turns out we only got a handful of leads from the convention, so it wasn't a great fit for us. There were plenty of people at the convention, just very few doing electrical design in Revit, which is the specific market I need. And for the design build people, I actually made an interesting discovery about how most of those design build companies are arranged. So people would come by the booth, they'd see that we do design stuff, and so they'd stop and talk with us. And the conversation would go something like this. Hey, are you a design build contractor? Oh, yes, I am. I say, great. So, do you guys have a design team in-house? Oh, no, we don't. We outsource that to an engineer. It turns out that the vast majority of design build contractors are what I'm going to call design build. In terms of like their marketing and their positioning, they have a design service. And so when they're talking to architects or owners, they can say that, yes, we do design build all in-house. But the reality is that the design is being outsourced to an engineer in another building at another company. And that certainly works as a business model. I don't have any problem with people doing that. It did mean that I couldn't sell them software because I needed to sell it to the engineer that they were working with and not to their actual company. Stepping back to think about design build, there's always a pendulum swinging in the industry between projects being more favored toward design bid and then going toward design build. And usually you're in a design bid stage, and then people start thinking, we should move over to design build because that's going to be more effective and more productive. And so they start using that on their projects. And for some projects, it works great as it works out. But people realize that there are actual problems with that model. And so then they switch back to the design bid. And then they wait a couple of years and they say, we should switch back to doing design build. So it's constantly moving back and forth. After these conversations with these design build companies, what I think is actually happening is that it's just changing who the engineering companies are working for. The takeaway for electrical engineers here is that in both cases, the design bid and the design build, the electrical engineer is typically a separate engineering company, and they're either working with an architect or they're working with a contractor. So just make sure you have relationships with those two, and then as the industry moves back and forth between favoring design bid or favoring design build, you're in a position to work in both of those scenarios. Those changes are going to impact who you're working with, but it's not going to be a replacement of you as an electrical engineer in the industry. Another thing I noticed when talking to contractors is that they conflated two terms, BIM and VDC. So BIM is building information modeling. VDC is virtual design construction. So when you talk to a contractor about BIM, they're really thinking about VDC. And that's where they're doing prefabrication and all the construction parts really of BIM. I think I have a whole nother video where I need to tease out the difference between BIM and VDC and what that means. But returning to the theme of this channel, it does mean that when electrical engineers are talking about BIM and contractors are talking about BIM, they are really talking about very different processes. If you're an electrical engineer thinking about attending NECA, it probably would be worth your time. You get a chance to talk to a lot of different vendors, and they have very technical folks on the floor. So you can get down into the engineering details of the various pieces that they're manufacturing for you to specify. And they're happy to talk about all of those technical details with you. You can really dive deep into the engineering specifics of what they're doing. So for an electrical engineer, I recommend it, particularly if it's nearby for you. It's a show worth checking out. For us, it's not something that we're going to be doing in the future as a trade show.